We're live.
Good morning. It is Wednesday, May 21st. Is that right? 28th. I got the wrong agenda here. It is Wednesday, May 28th. I knew I was off because yesterday was my brother's birthday. It's 27th, and I was going 21st. How did we go backward? We're here for the regular commissioner meeting, and we got all three commissioners. We got our administrator and the clerk of the board. And this time, I'll call the meeting to order and ask everybody to please rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. First item on the agenda is the adoption of the current agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the agenda as presented with one addition to add under the consent agenda, item number 4, ordinance number 04-2025, a preliminary approval of the Underwood planned unit development.
It's an addition. It's not on the agenda, but we're adding it because we
Correct.
didn't get that signed today.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for the addition of agenda item number 4 on the Underwood plan for our planning and building department. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Mullen, you're going to vote on that last one? Aye. For the Underwood?
Yes.
You got to vote on the last one.
Aye.
Okay.
I'd also like to remove item C under regular business until a further date. I'd like to make that motion.
Been a motion on the floor for removal of resolution 2025-0158, interlocal agreement extension on the ground lease with the city of Pasco. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to remove C, resolution 2025-0158, interlocal agreement extension on the ground lease with the city of Pasco until a later date. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so now I'd like the approval of the agenda as presented. With those
Mr. Chairman,
additions.
I move for approval of the amended agenda with item number C removed and an addition of item number 4 under consent.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for the revamped agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. With that, we'll move down to public comment. Is there anybody for public comment?
Good morning. And Michelle Andrews, my husband's birthday was yesterday as well. So happy birthday to your brother and my husband. There will be a meeting at the Eastern Washington COG where you will start to see the documentation and the bylaws for the Constitutional Compliance Review Committee that each and every county can put in place. So if you can imagine a resolution where the mandate on masks and such is reviewed and then given to our first legislators, and just so you understand, the state didn't put counties in place, counties put the state in place. They are the ones that put their legislature together. That's how the enabling documents review it. And so you are our first line of legislators. And when things are not constitutionally compliant and the citizens review it, it doesn't go through the court. We're not a judicial state. It goes through our legislators. And I really deeply encourage you to look at Amendment 14 of the Constitution, which almost every position swears to have an oath to uphold it. And if you are given, if I came in here today with the resolution for an invasion which we're experiencing, or any number of other unconstitutional compliant issues, you would have no choice but to review it and move. Because if you don't, then you're not upholding your oath to uphold the Constitution. Now, that's not a threat, that's a fact. I don't do that because I want to do it in an orderly fashion. The judicial branch, and especially in this state, is completely skewed. They believe our Constitution is a living document and they can make it say whatever they want. And they can have state agencies enroll people to vote when I have to come here and get my passport. It's not right. But now you have a mechanism that every state county can use, and I'm not confusing that with a convention of counties. Basic foundational information, different movements. I believe that movement has some flaws, but I want you to be aware, and whoever goes up there on Friday, I will see you there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Seeing nobody else come forward, I'll move for the approval of the consent agenda items 1 through 4.
Mr. Chairman, move for approval of consent agenda items 1 through 4 as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for the 4 consent items. Is there any further discussion? I just want to add that one of them, we've had an addition because of the Underwood give our planning and building department was number 4. It was added. If there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Move down to regular business, presentation, letter of appreciation to the Hapo Center cleanup project volunteers presented by Mr. Danzel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. Yeah, this is a couple of months, I think, coming, to be honest with you. But we have got a letter of appreciation for the folks that have helped out at Hapo for the cleanup. And it's interesting. There was just a number of people that showed up to help out and haul away debris. There were contractors in the area that even provided some additional resources. And so I thought this was the least that we could do to show our appreciation for the volunteerism in the county. And if you gentlemen have any other things like this that you'd like to bring up and recognize folks that have, gone above and beyond for Franklin County, just let me know. These are the kind of letters that are fun to write.
Well, and I'd like to add to that, if I could, that the Heinen brothers donated the gravel, if I remember
Yes, they
right.
did.
And we also had Anchor hauling it in for nothing. So it was a community event. It was orchestrated by Commissioner Bauman and completed by the community. So thanks for getting that done.
It's inspiring to get to work with the community when the community comes together for a common good, and like you said, especially to the Heinen brothers and Anchor Hauling for their going above and beyond for our community. Thank you.
So with that, we have a consensus. We will sign that letter of appreciation, all 3 of us.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Next, we'll move down to B, amendment to the interlocal corporation agreement with the City of Pasco regarding the financing and ownership of the multi-purpose arena and Hapo Center, presented by Brian Danzel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I got verification that the City of Pasco signed this at their meeting last night from City Administrator Zabel. He got a hold of me. Actually, I was asleep, to be honest with you, and I apologize today for that. But he got a hold of me late last night and let me know that had happened. And so what we're doing here with this is an extension to the ILA discussion as it pertains to Hapo with the City of Pasco. And I think that one of the issues is we were going to run out of time. So this was originally going to sunset on us here in a couple of days. This extends it to the end of December this year, and it is before you and ready to be acted upon.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
We've extended this a number of times, and I would like this to be the last extension, and I think that we've started putting things in place that we'll have somebody to represent us to go through that process with the City of Pasco, and thank you to our administrator for orchestrating that, and so I'm in favor of this extension for the last time, and hopefully we can get this across the line at this point.
And I'd just like to add that my fellow commissioners here, neither one of them were here when we extended this the last time for 5 years. And I'd just like to say the county has always wanted to work with the city of Pasco. We have. They have now got 25 years under their belt of renting that softball field area for $1 a year. And they have done well with the fees for teams to play and the hotel motel tax, and I'm hoping that we can sit down and work out an agreement for the future, but I'll guarantee it's not going to be $1 a year. We've done our service for this community on donating that land, and I think now we got to work together. We've got roads that are failing out in the county. We've got lots of things that we could be doing with some of this revenue also, so I just want to entertain a meeting with Pasco, and let's work out a deal.
If you're okay with another comment, Mr.
Sure.
Chair, I appreciate your comments there. I think we're better together, and a part of together is we share in the successes and failures of this facility and its surrounding uses. And don't hold me to this, but I believe it was TriDec or the Visit Tri-Cities or one of those organizations did a study and it found that the Hapo Center provided about $10 million of economic stimulus, and that was heads in beds and a lot of this stuff, and the county doesn't see any of that. I guess you would say revenue to help maintain and operate this facility, and I believe that that's one of the discussions that is on the table now for us to have, and I
Yes.
think that that this is timely, and look forward to that discussion, and this next 6 months will give us an opportunity to have that discussion and get a new agreement put together. I believe that the Hapo Center has been 30 years, and then the ball field's 25.
Yeah.
And so that's I remember watching the Hapo Center go up back in the early 90s, wondering what in the world are they building out in the middle of a farm field. And here we are today with a large community around it. So yeah, look forward to this next step in the process.
And I remember the ball fields when they went in, the farmers were the ones that brought their equipment in to level up the ground and help put that thing together. So it's been, again, it was a community effort, and we're part of that community too. And I'm just saying that as Franklin County, we got to safeguard on our responsibilities, and it takes funds. And so all I'm saying is it's time Franklin County started getting some revenue out of the Hapo Center. We haven't got anything for 25 years, and we have been nothing but a willing partner and making sure this was a success. And it's time that we start looking out for Franklin County. We need to.
I would agree with that because I think we've done more than our fair share.
Yes, I believe so. So with that, I'm looking for a motion for the approval of Resolution 2025-0157.
Mr. Chairman, move for approval of Resolution 2025-0157, the amendment to the interlocal cooperation agreement with the City of Pasco regarding the financing and ownership of the multipurpose arena and Hapo Center.
Second?
Been a motion and a second for the approval of Resolution 2025-0157. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Resolution 2025-0158 has been removed from the agenda, so we move down to Resolution 2025-0159, petition for vacating a portion of right-of-way off of Terrence Drive and ordering the county engineer to report thereon. Mr. Erdman.
Morning, Commissioners, Mr. Chair. On April 21st, 2025, Public Works Office received a petition signed by one landowner adjoined to the Terrace Drive requesting that a portion of the right-of-way off of Terrace Drive shown on Short Plat 2018-23, Lot 2 be vacated. The petition was accompanied by a sufficient bond as required by law. Pursuant to Chapter 12.08.020 of the Franklin County Code, upon the filing of such a petition, the Board of County Commissioners may, but is not required to, proceed with an intention to vacate the portion of a road as requested. If the board decides to consider the petition, it must signify its intent with a resolution and order the county engineer to report on such a vacation. My staff recommends that this petition move forward. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, commissioners? Mr. Bellin?
This is about the same thing that we had about a month ago, I believe, when we vacated what used to be a temporary turnaround until a road went through.
Yeah, this is a standard vacation petition.
Thank you.
Questions?
No questions here.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of Resolution 2025-0159 as presented.
Second?
Made a motion and a second for Resolution 2025-0159. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Takes us down to,
Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Thank you.
thank you, Craig. And thank you for the quick alertness of bringing people out there. We had another, I'll report on it in my updates, but gave Craig a text, and he had people right there on a roadway that had a problem, so thank you. Next is correspondence, request to hire a GIS topographer and the request to hire 4 correctional officers. And I believe, Mr. Danzel, you're going to report on this?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is the correspondence we received last week. The first letter that I'll be sending down your way is from Assessor Rosenau, and a request to hire a cartographer, which is
I think I said that wrong.
I don't know. Either way, that's what the request is. It's a pretty difficult to find position, having been in county government. So it's ultimately up to the Board of Commissioners to determine whether or not they want to allow that. What I would request is, maybe Council Briggs can chime in here. If they wanted to do that, would they just make a motion and then add an action item for each request?
So, Mr. Danzel, on this, this was already in the mix. I believe our person in that position right now is retiring, and we're bringing this person in to learn and to get updated. Do you know how long of an overlap, and is this within the budget of the assessors already?
It's within the budget of the assessors already. To be fair, the assessor had actually gotten approval and had asked to go to ad for this prior to our hiring freeze going in place.
Yes, I remember.
And then it was sort of like the last one that was snuck up in the, but as far as process and making sure we do this right, I just want to yield to the council.
So you're asking if the board would make a motion to essentially authorize the auditor to hire new employees? Is that the request?
The assessor, but I was wondering, do they need to add an action item, or can they do it under course? Can they make a like motion here and do it, or should they amend the agenda and then?
For regular business, add another couple items to the regular agenda, amend the agenda is what he's asking.
It looks like it's already on the agenda.
So he can take it.
Yeah, I think it's fine just doing it by motion. So
Very good.
Brian's right, so. Oh, Mr. Danzel, sorry, I'm getting.
No,
too
you're good.
Yeah.
I do this all the time. You are Council Briggs, but I am just Brian.
No, can't be getting too informal here.
I believe Mr. Erdman's going to add?
Yeah, permission to,
Yes, sir.
I would just like to throw in that particular position in the assessor's office provides vital support to both the Public Works Department and the Planning and Building Division. So I'd just like to throw that bit in there.
Thank you.
Board's information.
Yes. And this was already discussed upon before our hiring freeze. But again, I'm glad they're coming before the Board of Commissioners for approval, and we can't just go out and hire because we are looking at pretty rough times in front of us. So any other further discussion? Commissioner Baumann.
Just wanted to say thank you to the young lady that's retiring. She's been here for, I believe, 33 years.
Yep.
And I've worked with her a lot over many years, and she's amazing at her job. And I went down there last week and said, "You've extended before, I think you should again." And she said, "Nope, not going to happen." And so I'm in favor of this.
So John, do you have somebody in mind?
So we do not at this time, because we would need to post it as an extremely difficult position, because they not only need to have some GIS experience, but they have to have cartographer experience, and they have to have some survey experience to be able to read legals on survey. So it is a very critical position. I do not believe that you can hire somebody, bring them in, and they could start the job tomorrow and do it. I just don't think it's
That
possible.
was my next question, is how long is it going to take to train somebody?
Well, we had budgeted last year for the year to bring somebody in for about 5-6 months. We did not fill that because she extended it, so we had the position budgeted for the entire year this year along with her. So, because we didn't know when she might decide to retire, she has now decided to, okay, it's time, her husband's gonna retire as well. So I'm anticipating this being at a minimum of 3 months and easily up to 5 on training, depending on the qualifications somebody and how fast they can get on board. I can tell you sooner would be better for her and everybody. She would like to be able to get them in, work with them, and be able to retire. That's her desire. So it's certainly not something we would drag out. We did turn back in about $100,000 last year off of our budget because we saved every penny we could. This year, even with filling this position and the training part of it and her retiring, we will still be able to turn some money back in. We'll still save some money.
All right, thank you, John.
Yeah.
So, John, you'll be advertising as soon as the approval happens?
Yes.
And how long is the person in the current position going to stick around?
Well, she'd like out fast, so.
But I think it's so important that we
She's-
give her some time to work with a new person.
Correct, and she's willing to stick around. We'd have to get the person hired. We'd have to see how fast we can bring them up to speed. As soon as we can get them up to speed, she wants to retire. So sooner better.
Gotcha, thank
Yeah,
you.
with her, yeah.
Robin's commitment to Franklin County is inspiring, so thank you.
It is. She's been a fantastic employee, and the fact that she's willing to help stick around and train somebody and make sure they get up to speed. There's things in her head that are not anywhere else. I don't care how big the computer system is, it's not there.
That's why it's important for her
Yeah.
to be there to help the new one.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request by the Assessor's Department to hire a GIS cartographer.
Second?
Been a motion and a second for the request to hire a GIS cartographer by the assessor's office. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Next is a request to hire 4 correction officers by Mr. Harmon.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And actually, this was 4 corrections officer and then a part-time visitation clerk, and that was my fault for not getting that on there. But here's kind of the situation at the jail, the letter that we received from Commander Harmon, or Chief Harmon, pardon me. You've already taken a look at that. Kind of the gist of the situation is that there are 6 openings right now for corrections officers. They're expecting 3 folks to be leaving us shortly. And so really there's a manpower issue of about 9 folks that they had been relying on that aren't going to be there. Understanding the budget situation we're in, Chief Harmon is asking for 4 corrections officers and 1 part-time visitation clerk, and to be able to help run the jail. It's for your consideration. It's also within budget, so this isn't something that's gone above and beyond. And again, he's actually got more bandwidth there, but he's trying to help out knowing that there's a budget circumstance going on.
Questions?
So it appears that this opening for the visitation clerk has been open for over a year. The visitation clerk position's been open for over a year.
That is correct, sir. It's been open for over a year, and then in listening to Chief Harmon, what he explained to me was, both in this letter but also over the phone and in person, is it just helps make it a much more smooth operation to have the visitation clerk. It makes morale go up and the likelihood of incidents go down. And so it was pretty important enough for him to ask for that part-time visitation clerk.
Okay, and then I understand that there was a number of retirements that were happening, and so thank you to those that agreed to extend their employment for a minute until now. So thank you to those that extended their employment until that we had this opportunity. And so looking forward to passing this today.
Yeah, I'm in favor of it. It's important that we support our jail commander, so.
Now, these are all within his budget. If he's gotten the personnel back out of the guard shack, back in the jail. And did I help him out at all, or is this still, these 4 new people will be still under his previous staff, correct?
Yeah, so yes, he got the folks that were providing coverage at the security shack back into the corrections. I think there's a misnomer going around the county that because of that, he wouldn't need any additional help. But the explanation there, if anybody wants to come and meet with me, they're more than welcome to. But it wasn't just that they were doing guard shack duties. And so as a whole, if we want to make our jail more profitable, for example, if we want to bring in more and house more inmates, we have to meet a minimum requirement. And so some of this goes along those lines too, that we want to have the minimum requirements established that will allow us to go on and get accreditation and go on and get some of these things that will make our jail better. And I think that the other part of the consideration there is that the 3 that were retiring. So folks, I think, got the information that, hey, we were getting people back from the guard shack. I don't think they had the information that there were people retiring also at the same time. That's
And
kind
this
of
is all within the budget of the
Yeah,
jail.
oh, yeah.
So there's no additional charge to the county, so.
These are-
I'm glad we're keeping a close eye on everything because we see what's coming. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval by Chief Harmon in the Correction Center for his request to hire 4 correction officers and 1 visitation clerk.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for the hiring of 4 correctional officers and one visitation clerk for the Correction Center. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 We move down to Commissioner Administrator updates. Mr. Danzel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. Pardon me. And I really appreciate, by the way, Craig, the invitation to come out to Public Works, but I met with some of the folks, the staff out at Public Works when Mr. Erdman was having a staff meeting. They do an amazing job down there. I really appreciate the out-of-the-box thinking that they've had to use over the last several years. And it's fun to watch them with a full road fund be able to try to tackle some of the projects that I know that you gentlemen, as well as the entire department, are looking forward to tackling. The other part that I wanted to pass on to you, gentlemen, was I made the commitment to actually go out and meet with the folks in the road crews running the equipment. I think it's only a good thing for them to see that we're not a nameless, faceless entity, but that we care about these folks and we want to know if we can do anything to make their lives easier too. So appreciate that, Craig. Met with the coroner to discuss just the role of the coroner in Franklin County in general, but also the construction and the capital project taking place there. I met with members of our budget shortfalls team to discuss strategies and timelines further. There were probably a couple of elected officials also that got letters from me asking if I could utilize some of their personnel for a very truncated amount of time until we're able to get a better footing with this. I wanted to make you aware that as I attended the BCES and BIPEN meeting, that because we are adding an entity, we could see some budgetary impacts as members of BIPEN, so not to have you be caught by surprise. My kind of answer to the governing board there was that we understand that, and that we would just anticipate the same treatment and the same increase, if there is one in budget, as Benton County saw when they did the exact same thing. I think that's only fair, but it's my duty to report that back to you. And then I met with Commissioners Mullen, Didier, Bauman, and Bauman separately for our weekly one-on-one meetings to go over the agenda, and then, as you gentlemen know, as well as anything that is, bugging you or you want me to look into. And then I had a couple of meetings and phone conversations with McKinstry, who will be in later today. And I might just add that today might be the first, we might have to do a recess, because I had told her to be here about 10:30. We're a little bit ahead of time. I think we're going to have an executive session, but just to give you a heads up on that. And then finally, been working with Planner McCart and also Council Briggs. It's pretty busy down there. It's a lot happening this time of year. And so it's probably going to be more and more heavy workload out of that department. And so I think one of the things that I'm excited about is being able to go down and review some of the policies. I think Wes has talked to you gentlemen, both in these meetings and also independently, but we need to take a good look at some of the policies down there, some of the ordinances, and get those on a schedule and get those revised, because there are certain things that just don't pertain to Franklin County in the year 2025 any longer. So it's just time for a good update. And with that, Mr. Chairman, that's all that I had. If you had any questions, please let me know. I do notice that we have representatives from the city of Pasco here, so we might want to sign that resolution extending the ILA. That might be a kind of a nice thing before we take a break here if we go to our executive.
Absolutely. Commissioner Bauman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week was our evening meeting. I always appreciate our evening meetings. A little bit different way of going about it, and I think the public having access is important, so I appreciate that. Was kind of a short week with Memorial Day weekend, and with that, as you know, that my son is now serving in the armed forces, and it brings on a kind of a new meaning. I've heard a number of people say Happy Memorial Day, and I don't think that that's the purpose of the weekend. I think it's a remembrance. It's not a celebration. It's a remembrance and an appreciation and an honoring of those that served our country and gave the ultimate sacrifice. So thank you to all that have served. Had numerous meetings with our administrator, and appreciate working with him closely. Several meetings there, meeting with Hapo Center leadership, and discussing some of the challenges that we still have that we're working our way through. And with that, I'll leave it there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Mullen.
So last week had the Board of Health meeting, which had Wes McCart, our planning director, come forward and speak on ADUs and the importance of, if you're planning on building an ADU, you should look into the size of your septic tank, because we have all these new septic laws coming into effect here in the next 2 years. That it would just behoove you to, if you think you're going to have plans for that down the road, that it's just a lot more economical to do it now than wait and have to tear it out and build a new one. So I do appreciate Wes taking his time coming over and speaking with the health department on that. Also had the night meeting last week, which I saw that our auditor got up and spoke on the fact that he actually pursued a legal action against the past administrator, and after 20-some scandalous, or I should say, not scandalous, but
Unwarranted.
unwarranted articles in our local newspaper, I still haven't seen any response to that. after they wrote over 20 damning articles against him, our auditor, Matt Beaton, and myself, and our auditor won on all counts with prejudice. So I think that says a lot, and I think that needs to be acknowledged. Also, I think we should take a good look at our transit system. I see that now there's 2 larger cities doing a experimental program with self-driving vans, and that, I mean, that is the future. I mean, whether you like it or not, but it sounds like they can come up with a more affordable and improved service. So I think that before we spend too much more money with the transit, that should be taken under consideration. And with the health department meeting too, there was some talk about the outbreak of measles, which is resurfacing. So that concludes my report for this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Mullen. Had the agenda meeting with Mr. Danzel, and I just want to say thank you, Mr. Danzel, for taking the time to meet with all the commissioners and getting us abreast of the agenda and our input on it. It's just a refreshing moment here in Franklin County. We are getting a lot done, and it's running smoothly. Got to say thank you so much for taking this task on. Memorial Day, I shared something with my family that I have seen in other years, and it's a picture of the blanket, and they believe it's in Arlington, and the lady's laying on the blanket with the baby boy over her husband's grave. Yeah. Property taxes, I've got people calling me. They're very upset. Of course, farming is in a very difficult time right now. And with orchards being pulled out, which is a permanent crop, it's taxed at 3 times the rate as regular farm ground. I can see this is going to be a problem for Franklin County for our revenue, because as soon as they pull them out, they're probably getting a hold of our assessor and getting the taxes taken away. And got people calling me, when are we going to reevaluate this situation and our property taxes? And it doesn't happen overnight in government, but it needs to happen. And roads, just want to say that our roads are failing out there. And again, this morning I'm coming into town and I pull up behind a line of traffic, and it's right there by Callaway's hay plant. And it's 5 dammer dikers going down the road with a flag car in front and back, which is great, but we don't have any pull-offs, and a hay truck passes on that hilly terrain. Again, my grandchildren are going to start driving pretty soon. And by God, I'm going to keep harping on this. We need pull-outs on Glade Road. We need pull-outs on 68, because when I go over to 68, I got a piece of ground I'm farming down on Self Landing right now. I've never seen so much traffic as on 68. We need pullouts for equipment to get off the road and let the cars go by. This hay truck passed and a car right behind it. The car's in the blind. We're going to hear about it. It's going to happen. It's a time issue. We've got to have pullouts on these roads. And I'm not saying this to Mr. Erdman. I'm saying this to the community. We got to demand it. And they can be gravel. Hell, these tractors are only going 20 to 30 miles an hour. The new ones go 30, but the other ones go 20. They could pull off the side on the shoulder and keep their momentum going if it was a quarter mile and let the cars go by, or slow down, let them get by. Time's an issue. It is. Farming is a timing issue. You harvest at the right time, you plant at the right time. You got to do all these at the right time. I understand, and some of these guys are farming a lot of ground, but we need safe roadways. And we need to start investing in our roadways out in Franklin County. And I see we had another stairwell incident. This is becoming a reoccurring event. I think we need to extend the handrails out on these stairwells to get them to the wider part of the stairwell. We've got to do something in the courthouse here with that stairwell. And again, I want to thank Mr. Danzel for all his hard work. So that's the end of my report. And next, we move down to public comment. Is there anybody in the
Mr.
room
Chairman?
for public comment? Yes.
On the stairwell thing, it's happened numerous times over the last 2-3 weeks.
And it's not raining. They say it was because of the rain.
Yeah. I'd love to ask our administrator, not that you don't have anything better to do, right? It's not that it's better to do, but plenty to do, to maybe address it with our facilities and try to come up with a workable solution, because it's a regular thing that people miss the last step. They look up to figure out where they're going, and so I'd like to ask our administrator to maybe figure out if there's a way to address it.
I would agree with that, but I'll say it once again, you know, when you're at the airport and you're on the moving sidewalk, as you get close to the end, there's a motion sensor that says you are now approaching the end of the walkway. I think that we could put a very simple motion sensor on the stairway that basically sets it off, and recording that sets it every time, because obviously this has been an issue that's been going on for a long time.
Yes, sir, Mr. Danzel.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Ms. Wagner would probably tell you that we talk about this like almost weekly at our staff meeting, like what can we do? We've tried putting different colored tape down. I think I've actually suggested like a little, hey, you're nearing the end of your,
Right.
or even like a turnstile at the bottom, so that they could, at least, this is not funny, but the idea would be like at least they could fall into something if they're falling, to like grab themselves. But we will figure out a way and move forward with the safest possible.
And that's
thing
what
that
I
we
was
can come up
saying, along those lines, and it's only on the downward. Nobody's falling going up, so extending out that handrail so they have a hand on each side might be the solution. Just a thought. So with that, we'll move down to public comment. Is there anybody in the room for public comment? Please go.
Just briefly, a couple of points. I'm going to do a Pete Serrano comment and then a mayor comment. So from Pete Serrano, I want to thank you guys for the action you took related to local control of health. As Commissioner Mullen just addressed, we have the measles concern, but obviously I hope you've been following House Bill 1531 passed, and that actually rescinds everything you've done. I think the county is in a right position to potentially challenge that legislation, but you know, I don't work here, I just pay taxes. So just want to throw that out there. I appreciate, I know you guys are very interested in protecting your local authority as we are across the street in the city of Pasco. From the mayoral standpoint, I want to thank you for passing Resolution 2025-157. As you all know, we did that last night from the city's perspective to extend our Hapo negotiations. And I saw that you tabled 0158. Obviously, that's something that's going to be a concern of both the county and the city as the city continues to look at letting the softball fields and what our summer and fall and spring activities of 2026 and 2025 look like. Before we can make those commitments, obviously, we need to continually cooperate with y'all to figure out what that lease looks like, because we want to ensure that everyone gets the right thing, but we also realize that's a community asset that we want to make sure that collectively the county and the city are able to fill. That's something that's very high priority. And so reach out to Mr. Zabel, who's our interim city manager, who's here for at least a few more months. Myself, council members, you know, Perales and Blaisdell are on that board. So whatever we need to do to get things rolling, we want to make sure it gets done. We want to make sure everyone comes out ahead, but especially the community. We want to make sure those softball fields are something we can lock down. So thank you for the time, gentlemen. Dave, do you have anything?
Nope, just good morning. Thank you for your passage of the ILA this morning. Thanks.
Thanks, gentlemen.
And then the
Thank
lease.
you.
The lease is, the year was recognized in recognition of, there are concerns, and we're hearing them, that longer term, we need to do something different, but that's why the request was just for 1 year. So sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning again, Michelle Andrews. This is going to be a smattering. Brian Beggs, who decided that judgment, is a classmate of mine, and I trust him completely. Okay. Baumgartner is going to be putting together, he has an 85-page energy bill, and we are thrilled to hear about the nuclear mini power plants, but the Nuclear Power Commission takes about 10 years to authorize those. So we still need power and energy, and I was at the school board meeting last night. They need more revenues, and it has a lot to do with being able to grow our county. So again, I reiterate that we need to ask Mr. Baumgartner to include gas turbines. They put out as much power very closely to the turbines in the river, and we are able to build those up until 2045, and I would like City of Pasco to push that too. We need more power to our port to continue projects like Dairygold and Amazon. Furthermore, I agree with the roads and the pullouts. Mr. Cotta's son was in the Sunday school program that I worked in as a Sunday school teacher, and it was very difficult to watch that young man die. So it does get personal. Property taxes are part of the government's responsibility not to out-tax their base. They have roles, responsibilities, powers, and property that they have to review, and that is not constitutional. So I go back to my previous public comment on constitutional compliance committees. Regarding the steps, I have astigmatism, and I missed the step because I can't see it. So I think it's partly a side issue, and I don't know how much that helps you, but I have fallen down a couple of different steps because I could not see, and I think a lot of people have stigmatism. So I hope that's helpful. As part of your interlocal agreements, I know that City of Pasco is working on this, and I don't want to speak for them, but when I campaigned for school board, I wanted removal of the impact fees. I think they're impediment to our growth and our revenue base, and I think it's flat immoral. I don't see it anywhere else in the country where you charge somebody $5,000 to $10,000 in advance, and then the minute they get in that property, you're already charging them again. They don't even get a makeup time for what they've already paid. And you know, there's a lot of revenue to be earned when you got all that money in advance. And this was very controversial with the superintendent. There was one of the best attorneys on the West Side had to defend the outgoing superintendent at the time, and it was a lot of hay. So I ask you to scrutinize that and make that an affordable, if they have to be, but doggone it, if I were building a new house, and my kids are building a new house right across the street from us, those impact fees may have put that to a complete kibosh. So, thank you, gentlemen.
Anybody else for public comment? Seeing none, move down to executive session. Mr. Briggs or Mr. Danzel?
Yes, we do have need for an executive session under 4230-110 1I, I guess, several subsections, I believe, first little I and then triple little I. So
For how long?
10 minutes for one with Mr. Erdman, and then do you need one as well, Mr. Danzel?
Yeah, sorry, we will most likely need 30 minutes in total.
That's going to get us right to when. Okay, perfect. All right, so at this time, we'll recess into executive session for 40 minutes, starting at.
And then we need to call out who's in it. So not just Mr. Erdman, but the board, obviously, the clerk of the board can stay upstairs, Mr. Danzel, myself, and Ms. Lloyd. I don't know if Mr. Stantz can appear by phone, but I'll certainly invite him and see if he appears as well.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go into executive session at 9:48, and we'll come out at 9:28. Or 10:28, excuse me. Moving backwards again. I do that well.
It is 10:28, and on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, I'm reconvening the regular meeting to extend it for 10 minutes under the same RCW 4230-110-1I. At this time, our meeting is scheduled to resume at 10:38.
We are back from executive session with no decisions being made. Is there any other business for the, I guess we'll wait for Mr. Danzel.
We're good if we're just adjourning.
Well, I was going to ask him if there's any other business for the good of the county, because remember, we do have the road pull-offs that we want to,
Wanted to address that, you're right. So do we need to do a amend the agenda?
we just, no, I think we want to put it on the agenda for next week,
Just, yeah.
addressing and giving Mr. Erdman direction. Mr. Danzel, we have not adjourned because I think we're going to amend the agenda, or do we just announce that we're going to give Mr. Erdman direction next week for the pull-offs?
You can do that right now if you'd like.
Yeah, do we need to amend the agenda to add it for, or just add it for next week's agenda?
Mr. Briggs, what would you recommend on that?
We could amend the agenda and do it today, or we can put it on next week's agenda. I mean, it's really the board's preference.
I think we need time to, actually, the commissioners to think about it, so let's just put it on next week's agenda for giving Mr. Erdman direction on the pull-offs for Glade and Taylor Flats Road. And then announcing to the public that we're considering this, and asking the public, if you have land along these that is fairly flat, not a lot of work to get it ready, that we can create these pull-offs for these equipment, the farm equipment to pull off to allow cars to go by. I'd like to announce that to the public. So with that, we've added that to next week's agenda. And there is no other business for the good of the county. This meeting is adjourned. So that takes us into the, call the workshop to order and ask for approval of the workshop agenda.
Mr. Chairman, move for approval of the workshop agenda as presented with two items, HVAC renovation project at the Hapo Center and Associate Development Organization, or ADO, for 25-27 biennium.
Second?
There's been a motion and a second for the approval of the workshop agenda with two items. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Takes us to public comment. Is there anybody that would like to comment on these two items for the workshop? Not seeing anybody coming forward. We'll move on to workshop item number 1, HVAC renovation project proposal on phase 2 audit condition, presented by Christine Hoffauer and, I'm sorry, Lance. Please come forward. Sorry, Lance. It's been a while since I've seen you.
All right.
And Christy. Haven't seen Christy in a while either.
Been a while. We did have Morgan Bartleson joining by phone. I don't know if he's been able to call in yet, more in case there were some questions. Scoot up a little bit.
I have joined on the phone, yes.
Oh,
There he is.
okay. Well, thank you for inviting us. I had kind of four topics related to the Hapo Center that we were going to talk about. The first one was the Phase 2, and we do have a draft proposal, and I just wanted to walk through what that looked like.
Okay.
There's a project that's out there, the solar plus battery backup.
Yep.
And I wanted to give you a little bit of information on that.
Which was mandated by the state on this project, correct? Or,
It
or
was a
for
grant.
energy credits?
It was a grant that you
Yeah.
received to put solar plus a battery backup on the Hapo Center.
But it also gives us good standing with the state on their policies, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the final two are fairly minor, but I wanted to talk about a potential improvement we could make to the Expo Center heating and cooling, and then just an update on the Phase 1 construction. So those were the 4 items I had, but we're certainly will answer any questions you have about anything else as well.
Okay. All right, we'll proceed.
Okay, so I guess just to refresh everybody's memory, because it has been a long time,
And we got new commissioners.
new commissioner. McKinstry was originally competitively selected through an RFQ process in 2020. And we were selected to be the county's energy services company. We started with looking at the Hapo Center, which shortly after that was temporarily closed for a little while for the pandemic. We were initially contracted to do an investment grade audit. That was in early 2021. And that included the entire, I don't want to say Hapo Center because I know there's other buildings, but the main building, the arena, the expo center, to look at the entire building. We had a long list of wishful items, including bleachers and all kinds of different things when we originally started. We took that project to what we call a rough order of magnitude kind of stage where we had some initial ideas of what the scope and the cost would be. And at that time, it exceeded the budget that the county had for the building. And so there were some decisions made to prioritize the expo side because the equipment, a lot of the equipment was actually not functioning on that side. Mm-hmm. So that was what I call phase one of the construction. It included, well, several things. Give me 1 second. It included the expo center, RTU upgrades, the atrium, HVAC and control upgrades, lighting upgrades, roofing repairs, roofing restoration. On the lighting, it was all new interior and exterior lighting. So that was what was included in phase one. And there was some construction savings where we were able to also do some other improvements at the facility. The parts that we put on hold, so we stopped at this ROM point where we had rough order pricing and put aside the arena and some other, what do you call that, atrium section?
Yeah, the conference rooms and the offices within the atrium space were also pulled out into phase two.
So for that area, we had a rough estimate of 6.8, I think, roughly. And it hasn't gone any place since then. So that was the last work that McKinstry did looking at that. I know there's been a lot of discussions, a lot of concern. Obviously, there's a lot that could be done at the Hapo Center, and want to be as efficient as possible with the money, and we understand that. If we were to continue what we've discussed with Mr. Danzel is to continue that original investment grade audit for the parts that we put aside and just continue to take that to what we call a guaranteed maximum price. So we did some work. We would continue that work and get to a point where we could tell you this is exactly what it would be to do the project. This is exactly how much energy you would save. We wrote a proposal for that I have, that's a draft proposal. And where we would start, though, is we would want to relook at the priorities for the county. So again, we did this work back in 2022, and at the time, there was some anticipated building code changes that were not finalized yet. The clean building performance standards were still being written, so we were having to kind of guess at some of that. Some of the equipment was in very short supply at the time, so we didn't have a lot of choices. A lot of things that we could reconsider looking at it now. So we would start with updating that design to make sure that we're meeting the current energy code, because that was not known at the time that we did that original work. We would also be looking at maybe some assumptions on the occupancy. So just to give you an example, we did not have good information on how many people would be in the arena at one time. And so we were given the direction to just assume the maximum. So that's what we did. And so that equipment was sized as if you had the absolute most amount of people that you could fit in the building on the hottest day of the year. And because we wanted to add cooling. The way I look at this is kind of, in our building, it says that the elevator holds 21 people. I'm not going to be the 21st person to get in that elevator. So we could talk about what you're actually seeing for your events and how many people that is, and we could maybe make some adjustments on the sizing of the equipment. That's just one example of one thing we would look at before we did final design. We would also look at...
If we may interact here.
Yes.
I think just consultation with HWL is all you got to do, because they're out there running this thing right now. They have a pretty good idea of the capacity of people and what they're sizing up for events. So
Yep.
I think that'd be a quick just conversation with them.
Okay. And I just wanted to use that as an example of things that we might be able to do that could maybe reduce the price of the project a little bit.
Yes.
So, there's also potentially some newer technology that might be available, or at least some additional manufacturers. The sizing of the equipment was such that there was only really one choice at the time. There are more choices now that could help. And then we would also reevaluate the paths to meet the Clean Buildings Performance Standard. There is I remember the terminology, investment criteria path that was not well defined at the time. And so we would want to make sure that we were taking that into consideration as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
wanted to give just a little bit of context. I had a great conversation with them that I think was almost 2 hours long. One thing that's really important, I work with contracts pretty regular, and one of the things that's really helpful is to understand, because if you ask, how much does a pickup cost or what color is a pickup, every answer is correct. And so we had gotten some input into, some cost about, what this might cost and so forth. So one of the things that I wanted to have a clear understanding of is what criteria were we, so that we were talking about the same thing. And Christy spoke to that a little bit earlier, of where that we found that one of the criteria that McKinstry was using was not some of the criteria that others were using. So we really were not getting an apples to apples comparison. So that was really, really helpful to have that conversation with you guys and have that clear understanding. And so, yeah, I think that you have a great idea that if with some input from our administrator and HWL that we could have a much clearer picture of what it is that we're describing. So thank you. Sorry for the interruption, but I thought that would be helpful.
No, thank you.
Thank you. So we would look at all of those things and those design considerations. Then we would develop an energy services proposal once those decisions were made, and we would what we were going to include is the arena HVAC and controls upgrade, the atrium conference room HVAC and controls. I guess those are the two areas that we would be considering. And then we would give you an energy services proposal similar to the last one. We would give you the guaranteed maximum price of the project, the detailed scope, the guaranteed energy savings, and we would be taking into consideration compliance pathways for the Clean Buildings Performance Standard. This, I guess I'll skip to the price. So the price for this is $57,691. It's a very specific amount.
Say that number again.
$57,691. There was some funds that were allocated to the first phase of the project that are not used. And so, to be real honest, our fee to do this is actually a little bit higher than that. But one pathway would be because this was all part of the original project, is we would just use that amount because that's what the county has.
Can you give us the amount that wasn't used in the first project?
57,691.
Oh, it's that amount.
It's that exact amount.
That's what remains of the construction savings after the additional scope that was tacked on to the end of phase one. So like the parking lot lights, smoke dampers, some other stuff in the kitchen. I'd have to go back through the list. It's been a little bit, but that's what remains of those construction savings.
Okay.
So, the one thing that is not included in that number, because we're trying to stick within that number, is just there are some compliance. You need to have an operating and maintenance plan for the Clean Buildings Performance Compliance. We could build that into the project, but it's not included in the original investment grade audit, so. That's really the content. The other part of our proposal, when we do this process, we always have cost effectiveness criteria. What that basically means is that if McKinstry develops a project that meets your criteria, that we're assuming that you're going to go forward with the project, the cost then is rolled into the project. If we don't do that, then you don't have to pay us. And so it's pretty standard language, but we did add in there that you had an approximate budget of 6.5 million. That's not to say that we're going to spend it all. It just means we can't develop something that's more than your budget, and we are aware of that. So we will be making every effort to keep it below that number.
And that was 6.5?
Yeah, that's approximately.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but we got a $3 million grant, and we're going to have to come up with 3.5 million?
It was an appropriation, and then as part of getting the appropriation, which, by the way, if it wasn't for Christie, I don't think we would have. So she was there for us to go to bat with the Department of both Enterprise Services, but also Department of Commerce. And yeah, that was the cost of doing business.
I think the intent was .09 funds were allocated.
Yeah, that's our next discussion on the workshop that's what the Associate Development Organization is all about.
Okay. Again, I fully understand that we're trying to spend as little on HVAC as possible so you can do other things at the Hapo Center. There's just some certain things like electrical upgrades and things that will have to be considered, but we'll.
And the outdoor lighting has not been done, and
It has.
No, it's
it
fully
has been
complete.
done. Yes, I thought it was, but
Yeah.
okay.
No, we did add some scope in the project. We had, and I know Morgan's on the line and could probably give us a
here.
better number of the full construction savings that we had throughout the course of the project. But we added a few scope items as we were going through the project once we had an idea of how much construction savings that we had. Basically, at that point, we worked with the county to develop a wish list for things that they'd like to get done at those facilities within that budget. So none of the emergency lighting system worked in that facility. So the entire emergency lighting system was replaced. All the fire dampers were broken and locked in the open position. So there was no functionality of fire dampers. If there was a fire, those were replaced and repaired as part of this project. In the parking lot, would that be due south of the skating rink? I believe there wasn't enough lighting within that parking lot,
Right.
and we put in 2 more poles. And then, in the kitchen, while we're replacing the kitchen HVAC unit serving that space, we also replaced all of the ceiling tiles and the other pieces of the kitchen ceiling. And there's a few other ones that were in there as well, smaller. Those are kind of the big ones that the work had happened. But all of the lighting at the Hapo Center is updated today.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Bell.
So as we approach and look at this, we talked last week about the possibility of the board taking a walk through the facility. One thing that there's a couple of different things that we should consider doing. They're aware of these with the arena no longer having any dirt in it. the roof area is very dirty and, you know, peeling paint, and there's some repairs that may be necessary, and that, as good construction practices, you would do some of that stuff before you put new, you know, stuff up there on the ceiling. So just something for consideration, and if the board is willing and we were to take that tour, I think having McKinstry along for that walk would probably be really helpful.
All right. Commissioner
We
Mullen?
did
I agree.
assume that this would continue through Department of Enterprise Services. So Alyssa Wyrick, who's the project manager, she's not available today, but she has reviewed this, and I'm meeting with her on Monday. So I just wanted to say, normally she would be here, but she's on vacation. So that's the proposal. It's in draft form. We can certainly make adjustments, but that's how we would approach the project. We would relook at the design criteria to make sure it's meeting your needs, that it's meeting the energy code, and then we could give you the final price.
So with the, we're talking about the solar and the batteries, is that part of this phase
It's a
two?
Separate.
No,
That's separate, all complete, so it's not
Completely
included in
separate.
the 6.5?
no.
But in order to get to our clean building performance standard, that's part of it. We have to have that.
Actually. So when we did the original calculations, we had to model the building, but we didn't have good historical data. So we knew that you needed to do phase 1 and phase 2, and that adding solar would get you that
Right.
next step. The grant has, the grant that you have currently, that you've already signed for, doesn't have enough solar to get you all the way there, but we might be able to adjust the battery size and the solar. But anyways, I guess my point is, it's the best estimates we had on how you would meet that criteria, but there's also some investment criteria paths that might be available where, I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't have all of that
My
information.
reasoning is this: if we go to this expense of this 6.5, but yet we're not to that clean building performance standard, as of the end of 26, we'll be getting fined because we're not there, correct?
July of 2020 or July 1st of 2027 is your guys' compliance date for
July
that.
1st to 27.
And the way that the fines or penalties accrue is a $5,000 administration fee, and then it's up to $1 a square foot per year for up to 18 months. So if you are non-compliant for 18 months after your due date, you'll effectively be paying that $5,000 plus $1.50 a square foot. Would
Do
be
you
the-
have the square footage of the,
off the top of my head right now, I believe it's right around 133,000 square feet. And so that comes out to, I want to say, right around between like 180 to 190. I could
Plus-
be wrong with
plus
my.
the 5.
Yeah. Now, that being said, that's one pathway. And when we had talked about this in 2022 and we had looked at this, the investment criteria path wasn't particularly clear or really much for anything around rules around what that would look like or what that would give the county. So you have two pathways, and I'll kind of go at it high level and feel free to ask other questions. You have the metered compliance pathway, meaning that your building uses less energy than the state target, and so you are meeting clean building performance.
who meteors that?
So your energy bills have to be reported to, right now it's Energy Star Portfolio Manager, and then it goes into Commerce, has their own kind of portfolio manager that tracks and links with those. And so when you apply, you get a 24-month period, and you get to pick the best 12 months within that, or 12 consecutive months in that. And you have to resubmit that. Right now, it's every 5 years. And so you submit it, and that's what you get to show of meeting the target or not meeting the target.
Is it a moving target from year to year?
As of right now, that has not been communicated from Commerce that it's a moving target. I'm not going to say that I know definitively that it's not going to be a moving target. as you go. 15 years from now, they may decide, in our third or fourth compliance cycle, they may drop it down. I can tell you that buildings built post 2016 have to be 10% more efficient than buildings even built in 2015. So they did make, kind of a change of newer buildings needing to be more efficient than some of the older buildings. So I can't definitively tell you that it will stay static. But right now, that is the communication that we have from Commerce, is that there isn't a plan to change it as far as we are aware.
Okay.
So the metered compliance path is what we were originally looking at. That building, how it was designed, how it's used, is very difficult to meet that metered compliance. Just the building was not designed to do that. If you recall, we looked at things, heavy insulation, spray foam insulation, new exterior metal, everything. But the cost to do that is pretty astronomical, right? For the building, for its use. There's really not the ROI, right, for lack of a better term, for the county on a lot of that, especially on how it's used. With that, the state did give an alternative path to compliance that would be more of, at least our initial recommendation. And again, as we get into this and we calculate the true energy savings, maybe we can meet that metered compliance path, and we'll continue to go that path, but that's part of what we need a little bit more design to determine. But this other path is called the investment criteria path. And effectively what that means is we need to look at everything within the building that uses energy, which, good news is we largely have done already. Right through this first phase, we've looked at everything at a pretty detailed level. Through this second phase, we will dial in what's left. And you put this into the life cycle cost analysis tool provided by the state. It also has to be entered to Commerce's portal. It's through Form D. It's a website, just a lot of information on the building and all of these items that were identified that could be potential for energy savings to make the building more efficient. But you also enter in the cost of those items along with the anticipated energy savings for those. And if it does not have a ROI less than the life of the equipment, as determined by this tool, then you do not have to implement that. So the long-winded way of saying the installation, for example, might be a large number to redo that and put all the insulation in there, but the savings won't pay for it over the life of whatever that installation may be. The state would not require you that you do that work in order to be compliant. And so with that, largely what we see on most buildings that come out through that process is controls and lighting are the two that do have a payback. The good news is you've already done 50% of your controls upgrade. With the HVAC in the arena and the rest of the conference rooms, you will do 100% of the controls. And the lighting has been done for a few years now. And so I think that if we can go through and we can address your HVAC concerns in the arena and the remaining conference rooms and office spaces in the atrium, I believe that we can get you through this first block of compliance. Again,
Using that compliance path,
correct.
investment criteria path.
If we end up not being able to meet the full metered compliance
That again was called the investment criteria
path.
path.
Yep. And then to kind of circle back to the solar plus battery, when we were talking about the full metered compliance path, without going with a extraordinarily different HVAC system like you would with a new building when you're installing it, one of the options that we had shown back in 2022 was doing all of the HVAC and controls upgrades and lighting upgrades that we've talked about for the whole building, but also putting in 2 separate solar arrays because you have 2 different electrical services on the building, one in the arena and one for the expo center, and putting in 2 different solar arrays to knock down your energy usage further to potentially meet the target, which was part of the driver of applying for this battery plus solar, or solar plus battery storage grant. That grant is more predicated around resiliency, which obviously the Hapo Center in this region is a big hub for resiliency if there was to be a natural disaster or some event that is, whoever you talk to, that's on the list of where they're going to go. And so there's benefit to the county in that one as well, but that was part of the driver of going after that grant.
So maybe we'll talk about the solar plus battery. So for that project, you received a grant you've already signed from Commerce and already approved this project. The original intent was that the state would pay 70% of the project through the grant, and that you would receive an investment tax credit from the federal government for 30% of the project. So in effect, it would, over time, it would cost the county nothing. Conversations we had, this has been a while ago, was making sure that the county understood that the investment tax credit is reimbursed after the project is completed. So you would have to pay for the project first, then you would apply for the reimbursement back from the federal government. So at the time, I think we met with Jeff Briggs and someone from the county, and I'm not sure who it was, but anyways, the decision was made that yes, the county could do that. They could move some money around and get that done. The issue right now is the investment tax credit. The reason that was, the investment tax credit for solar projects has been around for a long time. What was new with the Biden Inflation Reduction Act was the ability for non-tax paying entities to get cash back. So you don't pay federal taxes, but you were going to get 30% of this project paid for with a cash credit back from the federal government. There's questions about how long that investment tax credit will be available, both from the question of would it be available to non-tax paying entities and would it still exist? And nobody has the answers to those questions right now. What we do know is that time is of the essence because the tax code changed in 2025 that's applicable to the investment tax credit. So projects need to be started by a certain date, but nobody knows exactly what that date is. I cannot give you tax advice. I can only tell you that it's a very complicated tax situation. And the earliest date that I've heard, so there's some language in the bill that's being considered at the federal Senate level right now that would impact this. And so there's the potential that projects would need to be started 60 days after that bill goes into effect, which nobody knows that date. But we're talking like potentially like September. The good news is your project is developed, so this aside, if you want to go ahead with this project, really all you need to do is tell Alyssa to drop the contract and we start. So that part's pretty simple.
Okay, we got the percentages.
But
what's the bill? What's the total cost?
The amount that, the 30% is $642,857. So I don't want to start this project till the county needs to be very clear on whether this investment tax credit is going to be available for this project or not. And it's all up to you. If you want to do the project and you want to come up with the $642,000, that's up to you. If you want to say, we're not going to do this project because we're unclear if we will get that, I mean, that decision needs to be made, and it needs to be made quickly.
Yeah, with that solar and battery, do we then meet this clean building performance standards for the state of Washington?
No.
And
Not
why
necessarily.
Yeah, sorry. There's a possibility, but it's highly unlikely. I don't think there's enough solar in this. So the way this project was put together for the grant was we would go maximize the net metered solar that we could put on that meter for the county, which is 100 kilowatt AC size solar array. And then with whatever money's left, we'll buy as big of a battery as we can and get as much, run time that we can in an emergency situation. That is how this project was sized and how the grant was geared towards for resiliency purposes. When we did our initial estimates with solar back in 2022, if we did everything else, it looked like we'd need roughly double the amount of solar, one net metered array on the expo and one net metered array on the arena. Obviously, there's been a change in how the building has been operated and used since that point. We have new equipment there that's actually running in real time, so instead of a calculation, we get real actual values. And the different solar, just the technology and solar panels and solar modules between 2022 and now has changed. So I can't say definitively that you won't meet the target, but with most likelihood until we kind of dive into the phase 2 to figure out what the actual efficiency of the HVAC equipment that we're putting in, what the size we're putting in, the load we're trying to support, and seeing what, this solar array would produce. I can't definitively tell you that you're going to meet the target.
With our having now a year of real-time energy consumption, how does that match up with our projections?
We haven't ran that back against our model. So the way that we do these projects is when we have a measurement and verification plan for those projects, and you guys are in the measurement and verification period right now, just to make sure that we're meeting what we said we were meeting on energy savings. I apologize that I don't know where that sits exactly today. But ultimately, what would end up happening is if we are meeting or exceeding what we're saying we're doing, we're not running it back through the model, and we're not redoing that energy model to see where it truly is today, as long as we're coming in within the bounds that we said originally. When we calculate these for energy savings, we usually put about a 90% factor on our calculated value to come in with some real world, buffer, right? No calculation's perfect, right? And so
True, but
yeah.
with real world, energy consumption, bills coming in, we should be able to know exactly what we have used and then match that against our consumption projections.
Yep.
We could redo the calculations.
We can, and that would be a part of this phase 2 that we've talked about, and really the phase 2 HVAC is we would rerun that model against the current utility bills along with the updated schedule. Now we have a good idea of how HWL is running the facility, how often it's occupied, how long the events are. All of that we could build back into that model and rerun this and see where we're at, and that would be a part of that.
So talking about the solar project, so the way this fully operational would be the battery is there in the event of a power outage, at which point it would then operate the facility. And in the meantime, with a full battery, then it would be net metering back into the grid from what is being produced by the solar panels.
Correct. Yeah. And so what you effectively have, it's called a bidirectional meter on the solar array. And so if you're producing, say the building's sitting empty on a Friday, right, and it's nice and sunny, you're probably producing more energy than you're drawing. And so it'll effectively run backwards. Instead of having a battery to store it and use it later, the utility basically keeps that on a spreadsheet of, okay, you've produced this much, you've used this much, and at the end of the month, they deduct it. And if there's any excess, that rolls over the next month.
But it's not, the dial doesn't run equally forward and backwards. We pay more for what comes our way than what they pay us for what goes their way.
Correct. Yeah, you'd have to size the array, and I apologize, I don't know how big the size is off the top of my head, but you would have to size the array much larger to be a full offset. With how, and every utility is a little bit different on how they go about this. Most utilities won't allow you to size a solar array for 100% of the capacity, not because they don't want to not give you electricity. It's not that, it's grid instability of pushing more power back onto the grid than actually pulling it off. So they still need basically each electrical connection, they want to have it be a net they draw some power. But you can size it significantly closer. The problem is the actual negotiated rate that you get paid for that electricity. Once you get over a certain size, that 100 kW net metered array, it becomes negotiated. And the baseline starts at what's called a PURPA rate. That is an acronym that I do not remember the full thing. Public Utility Regulatory something, something, something. But I think effectively that averages out to about 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour over a 30-year period. It's significantly less than your retail rate, which is what you get for net metered. And those are kind of the, you can go either way, right? We can upsize a lot and try to get most of that offset and negotiate with the utility, but your payback might be worse because you're getting a lesser rate for your energy, right? And so that's that back and forth, and that's where we, at least as a starting off point, started with that net metered capacity, because we know that the electrical meter serving the expo center and the atrium draws more than what a 100 kW array will provide throughout a year, and we know that you guys will get the full retail rate for whatever that does. So that kind of is how we came to that decision.
Yeah. And then the battery, I know we talked about this, but my fellow commissioners didn't have the benefit of having been there and learning about this. So the battery that is currently sized for this project will essentially sit stagnant and not be used in any capacity unless the power goes out. And in other words, if the battery was 50% larger, we could use that reservoir to go up and down with the energy that we generate with those solar panels. If we were to have that, the way that we have it today, we cannot. It'll just sit there as a reserve in the event. And then the second component of that is the electronics that manage that battery today don't allow that. So if we were interested in that, we would have to get a larger battery and then more sophisticated electronics to be able to use that reservoir that could be in a larger battery.
Yeah, no, you're spot on with that. Yes, it's called demand shaving or peak loading, or there's a bunch of names for it, but effectively, you're right. After you start drawing so much, it would start drawing the power off the battery and the grid through those controllers, so that way you pay effectively a less of a demand charge, which is pretty beneficial with expensive demand rates. But you are right, the battery is not sized currently for that. Now, in that final design, I think that there is some flexibility if that's an option that the county would like to look at. If we went with lesser solar, right, knowing that it may not meet that CBPS standard, but you could have demand savings by going with the larger battery or getting that capability in, we can. The one caveat I would say on this is the grant does require, at least from Commerce, we have to have some solar and we have to have some battery. The battery has to serve a resiliency purpose, meaning that, you know, exactly what you had said, where the battery is sized for kind of those minimum resiliency requirements today. So if we, in this process, the county wanted to go with more battery to use some of that demand shaving capability potentially, we could explore that option of shrinking that solar array, making it, would design it so if you guys ever wanted to add on to it in the future, you absolutely could. Right, and we can do the same thing on the battery front, where you could expand those batteries if you wanted to in the future more easily. But that is something that could be looked at in changing the functionality of that system, as long as we are sticking to meeting those are, you know, base Commerce requirements, that we are at least meeting the resiliency metric. So if we double the size of the battery, you could use 50% of the battery capacity for demand shaving.
Yeah.
Effectively.
Thank you for that. I think it's really important, Mr. Danzel, that we answer that question before we say yes, no, or maybe.
Pardon me, I would agree, sir. And we will also work, Teresa and I will, with you gentlemen for when you want to go out and look at everything as well. Take a tour, kind of make it a sort of more of a holistic approach. I think if McKinstry could be there, great. I think that's the best way to proceed. And then, but I would echo what Ms. Hoffpower said about we need to make our decision quickly. Time is of the essence.
So I need
Well,
to
and
know.
if I could add something, the concern I have, I guess, is with the uncertainty over the investment tax credit. I mean, that's certainly, I guess we'd have to, I recall the email that was sent to me. I recall it essentially saying, I think there's a law firm that could give some advice on it.
So we could do two things. One is we do have some experts at McKinstry that's all they do is follow this, and they can't give you advice, but they can at least walk you through what's changing and why it's important to this project. And then we could also set up a 30-minute consultation with an expert tax firm. Again, you can use whatever tax firm you want. This is someone that we've used on other solar projects, and they would be willing to give their opinion to you, and they can give you advice
But to
we
cut to
can't.
the chase, it sounds like even they're not going to give you a definitive. It's going to be a lawyery.
Gonna be
It
a-
depends. It's likely that or unlikely, but even they don't know for sure.
They don't know. What they're going to tell
yeah.
you is to move as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Because if you don't start this project in 2025, it will probably not be qualified.
Because it's contingent on things that are occurring outside of their control, essentially. Yeah.
So one question I have, what data do you have on the longevity of batteries? How soon do they have to be replaced? What are we talking the cost there? Because as a farmer, we're dealing with batteries and all types of equipment. They don't last forever. I've got solar little projects out there. The battery's got to be replaced. What time frame are we talking about these batteries? Do you have enough data on that to tell us how long they're going to live
Yeah,
for?
no, I definitely can. So the battery technology in the market has shifted from, the actual chemical composition of the battery, I'm not sure I could accurately state what it is, but it has changed to a new generation of battery here within the last 18 months. And where the typical battery lifespan was estimated to be somewhere between like 10 to 12 years, give or take, in that battery system, it's roughly doubled. At least that's the literature that we're seeing from the battery manufacturers at this point, is that you're 20 years plus.
They give a warranty for that?
Yeah, we can extend out a warranty and service plan for that. And that's something that is going to be looked at and priced into
We
this.
can extend out, which means we got to pay for it.
It'd be, yeah, I mean, it'd be part of the battery cost. Now, we don't have a specific battery picked, so I don't have a specific, right now I think they were looking at ELM batteries. And so we have some information. I can send some of that information and literature over to you guys for that, but we can also shift gears and look at other battery options depending on what has the best criteria that goes with that. But
Well, and here's another, I guess it's sort of have we looked into the federal government about maybe using generators and diesel fuel? Could we get grants for that? I know that'll be contradicting the state, but I think the Trump administration would be looking favorably on this.
one thing I would note on this, so we did spend a lot of time talking with Franklin County Emergency Management and talking with them about their game plan of what would happen in some of these instances. So with the battery system that we would put in, battery's intent is only to power things short term. There is a plan to come in, and we are going to put a tap in there for a quick connection to a diesel generator to run the facilities and bring some of that other stuff in. That's part of their overarching plan. Battery is more of a stopgap between them getting mobilized and getting out there.
Does that fit in with the clean building performance standards?
I mean, I can throw that calc in there if you'd like. I don't know if it'd help you, but we can try it.
I'm just throwing a little fun out here.
Oh, no, I like it.
But I just want to be clear, we can talk about all these different design changes, but you are going to be on a very short time frame.
Correct.
Those decisions have to be made. If you're going to do this and you need the investment tax credit, you need to move quickly. If you don't care about the investment tax credit, then yeah, we can redesign all day long. There's no, we have never charged you anything for all the work we did on this solar project, so there's no, fees to McKinstry or anything. When we originally started this, we thought it was going to be a quick thing.
I would note when we get into this, so the construction contract that DES is waiting on approvals from you guys to start writing that contract, a lot of this design changes and things will happen in that final design. The big direction that we need from the county on their design is what is the county's preference? Which direction do they want to go? Do you want to maximize solar and basically the kind of financial benefit to the county of the net metering? It also helps with the EUI reduction, and we can go into that a little bit more, or either more resiliency or peak shaving and go with more of a battery size. And, we can run an option or two with that, but to Christie's point, we don't have unlimited time to run 10 options. We might be able to do 2, right, and come up with that plan. So I just want to be clear on that.
Mr. Danzel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. we're, just so I keep us a little bit on track here, why don't we do this? Why don't, Christie, I'll be in touch with you within 1 week's time regarding whether the board would like to move forward. I think at the same time, Teresa or Ms. Alvarez, we will schedule a time for the board to take a tour out there with McKinstry. But I think that within a week's time, really, we should probably give McKinstry an idea of what we're wanting to do with this battery solar project. And then I would also say that a lot of this is the result of starting and stopping and starting and stopping. My advice to the board would be to utilize McKinstry, sign with them, and just let's get what we're going to get done.
Yes.
Because I think otherwise there will be too many moving pieces.
Yep.
That's my advice.
And we appreciate all the effort on this solar project. It's just that our state's pushing this,
I understand.
and the federal government's not. And so there's a conflict. That's why we got to move quickly. And I don't work well with pressure situations such as this. Previous occupation, I did all right. But I don't spend money well when it's under pressure.
So,
Thank you.
just from one, I think the peak shaving is to our advantage. Our local grid is very, very reliable. From historically, when we have blackouts or when we lose power, and so I think that there's a lot of value in us doing peak shaving versus a massive array and a battery that doesn't work for us.
Okay.
And so if we were to move forward, I think that we should have an evaluation of that, and it would be my request, Mr. Administrator, that that we had our board meeting next Wednesday, and then we had maybe a half an hour intermission, and then we had a workshop at the Hapo Center, and that was our workshop would be made up of a tour of the Hapo Center. So
Would you-
next week, that'd be my.
Would you be available for that next week?
I think that's the 4th. Is that June 4th? I'm going to be in Seattle on Wednesday, but
I could probably be
Lance.
here on Wednesday. I was just trying to look. Could probably make it if I need to.
he's expecting his first baby.
That. So.
He's expecting his first baby.
Yes.
That's real important.
You
Yeah.
got to be there for
Learned about
that.
schedules.
Yeah. If you can, just send me the date and time when we do it, when I'm sitting down, and I can kind of look at what appointments and everything we got and try to make that work.
Yeah, Mr. Danzel.
Christie, let me just ask you, is a week soon enough, or would 2 weeks, would that be soon
I
enough?
could be here Thursday.
You could be here Thursday.
I could be here Thursday, but Wednesday I'm in Seattle.
So what if we recessed? What if we did the exact thing that you're talking about? Instead of adjourning, we recess until Thursday, and we do it at a time that would be convenient. And we're not, I know now, we're not taking you away from mama and the baby. I know
Well,
that much.
it's
He
not
has
due
a
yet.
little
It's just a doctor or an appointment that I'd really like to go to. But
You need to be there.
Yeah, but if you can, let me know or in that, and I will try to get those dates so I know when
Thursday.
I'm available.
Does Thursday work for you, gentlemen?
We'll make it work.
Why don't we do that? We'll advertise for a Wednesday, and then we'll just, we won't adjourn, we'll continue, or we'll recess, and then we'll pick it back up on Thursday. Christie, what time would work for you?
10:30 worked pretty good today.
10:30? 10:30 in the morning.
So you've also got Expo and Update yet to go over, correct? The Expo Hall and the Update, you're going to go over yet today?
We could talk about that next week if you want. It wasn't urgent.
It's up to you.
We can do that next week. It's fine.
Okay. All right. Well, we really appreciate you coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you so much, and thank you for all the work on the solar and battery project. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And Lance, good luck.
Thanks. Yeah.
Don't miss the birthing. It's the most
I-
special time
Congratulations.
of life.
I like my head, so I'm not going to.
With that said, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Denzel.
you will go down a rank in priority, just so you know.
That's fair. I've been told.
All right, that moves us down to Associate Development Organization. And I believe this is you, Mr. Danzel?
Very quickly, we have got a decision to make whether we're going to continue with sending our .09 monies where we can currently send them, or if you would like to potentially take any action on the public infrastructure fund that I had sent over it's been about 2 months ago, but the idea behind this is that some of and it's particularly, I think, powerful for the non-incorporated, unincorporated parts of the county, because see, like Mesa and Basin City, Colotis, they would have a seat at the table, and those are the communities where it's really difficult to get any footing when it comes to .09 or economic stimulus or economic development dollars. So it's just for you to consider. The bonus would be you'd have more of a control over where the .09 funds went, and it would probably be more inclusive for the smaller outlying areas in Franklin County. This was a derivative of something that's done between a lot of other counties, but I've kind of like a lot of things, I reach out and I talk to folks from other counties. This is a derivative of what was done in Chelan County, but it's done in other places as well. Seems to work pretty good. They get a lot of buy-in, and again, it helps with just the smaller outlying areas that typically don't get seen. But it wasn't a full presentation, and I just wanted to get that back in front of you because we really are up under a time limit when it comes to where we're going to put those .09 funds. And so it's just for you gentlemen to think about for a week and maybe get back to me, or maybe we can schedule something on the agenda to take action one way or another here in the short term.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So on this, on 7A, you've got members from the incorporated areas plus one member from the unincorporated Mesa and Basin City. I think that's good stuff. We need them involved too, so I think it's well done, as everything you're doing, Mr. Denzel. Commissioners?
Thank you. I think this is really helpful. The one, like Basin City, is not actually an incorporated city. And so, but they do have a, water improvement district, I believe it is, and there's ways there. Some of the questions that I would have is, the commissioners have talked in the past about supporting the Freedom Rodeo that happens in Basin City, and some of that kind of stuff would, as we approach, that's something I'll be looking at, having an understanding of ways to. That's something that our community has absolutely embraced since July 4th of 2020. And it is now a PRCA rodeo sanctioned event, and it's growing rapidly, and these funds are specifically for the economic development and stimulation of our community. And so that's something that I'd like to, I'll read through this. Thank you so much, and we'll try to have an understanding, or I don't know, maybe by then I'll have some good questions or not. Thank you.
Anything?
That sounds like a good idea to me, so.
All right, so that gets us down to public comment. Is there anybody in the room for public comment? Nobody on the phone, because we don't have anybody answering the phone, so I don't see nobody coming forward. Is there any other business in the workshop? So at this time, I will adjourn the workshop. I was going to give you the